Alright, I'm here. Yes, today's recap is late, but listen, it's Sunday, I slept in, and playoff football. I'm an American, there are only two things I care about, and that's taxes being the devil and American football. So as you can understand, I had to go do my solemn duty and be distracted all day. But anyways, we're here for the final day of the qualifier stage of the very first Blast Bounty. We had our last sets of best of threes. We had Eternal Fire defeat Falcons, BetBoom overcome Furia, Vitality breeze past Virtus Pro, and G2, despite making me want to throw things and destroy the world, beating big. If you wish to file a complaint for today's recap being late, you can do so at our community Discord, linked in the description. That's right, everything's a plug. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, all that good stuff. Leave a comment down below. And before we get started, let's thank today's sponsor. That's right, this video was sponsored by Skin Club. They're one of the most popular case opening sites in the scene with over 100 custom cases backed by its provably fair system. You can open cases individually or play against other users in case battles, whether there's against other users on the site, your own friends, or privately with bots if solo queuing isn't just a necessity, but a lifestyle. But that's not all. Skin Club also runs monthly events with free rewards to earn, free daily cases for a little extra Skrilla on top, and if you don't like what you got, you can try and upgrade to something else unless you are me specifically. If you want to play on Skin Club, you can do so at the top link in the description and get a 7% deposit bonus when you do so by topping off your account with crypto, credit card, or skins from your inventory. Please gamble responsibly and make sure you are over 18 and live in a country or jurisdiction that does not restrict gambling. Never gamble to make a profit and only play with money you are okay losing. Gambling can be a serious addiction, and if you or a loved one are suffering in the US or Canada, you can reach out toll-free to 1-800-GAMBLER to receive help. Be safe and well, and thank you to Skin Club for sponsoring this video. I would say overall, my biggest takeaways from Eternal Fire beating Falcons is that obviously Nico and Magisk having a terrible series is going to be very hard to overcome. TeSeS has been nothing if not a fantastic addition alongside Nico, and Eternal Fire just look much more dangerous the more I see them and the more I see the impact with Yada in the squad. Getting right into this first game on Inferno, the one thing that has to be said right away is you're not going to get many games where both Magisk and Nico failed to get above a 0.7 rating, so when that does happen, you need to take advantage, and Eternal Fire did so. Their T-side was incredibly dominant, they didn't give any room for any Falcons devil magic on their own T-side. It was a very calmly utilitarian 13-6 win. Zontar's at the helm, still playing fantastic. Woxic, Major, Wakadia, Yada, everybody was just doing what they needed to do. This was simply a firepower difference, and you know, that's going to happen sometimes. You're not always going to play at your best, so it's hard for me to hold that game against the Falcons too much. I do want to, as a rule, be uncharitable because fuck Falcons as an org, but I can also be fair and acknowledge when Counter-Strike just doesn't go your way. Sometimes that's the breaks. Honestly, pretty similar story when we move over to Nuke, at least in terms of the firepower issues for Falcons. They still managed to push this to double overtime, which means things were very winnable, but it's always going to be an uphill battle when you have Magisk stuck with 13 kills to 27 deaths, even after 2 overtimes. That is abysmal. He couldn't find a kill if he was absolutely trying. Nico was better, but only really slightly, 20 kills and 26 deaths of his own. And on the other side, Eternal Fire, they're just a well-drilled, well-oiled machine because this core 4 players have been playing together for so long. The protocols just look very solid, and while over on the Falcons side, you still see a similar amount of team play between TeSeS, Dexter, and Kixan. It's very clear they haven't had the time to boot camp long enough to really build up the repertoire of setups and executes and team building that we saw from Eternal Fire. If we have the same matchup, say at like the Katowice play-ins or in IM Katowice proper, I would say Falcons are probably more likely to win. But on this day, Falcons were vulnerable, Eternal Fire didn't waste any time, Wakadia had an insane pop-off game with 32 kills for himself, and when Zontar's isn't even called on to carry, that's when Eternal Fire are in cruise control. You can see a lot of that firepower difference in a round like this, where in the second half of the second overtime, and in round 2 clean sweeping the rest of the game, Eternal Fire is firing rounds off like this, where they're going to be very slow and measured with their outside control, waiting to see what the response and rotate is from G2, not over-executing their utility, before accelerating Zontara straight downstairs, where he takes care of Zontaras in secret, keeps on pushing through, gets the second pick in the vents before TeSeS wakes up from control. Now TeSeS does go God mode here, ending up with 3 total picks, equalizing this great advantage from Eternal Fire into a 2v2 situation, but Major has an excellent timing on the vent pick through lobby, dropping down and taking care of Dexter. TSS puts it into a 1v1, getting his 4th kill of the round, but he's unable to get the ace clutch against Major rotating to the top side. If Nico or Magisk or anyone else picks up a pick, this is a round win for Falcons, but they just weren't able to find those kinds of rounds late into this game, which is how they ended up losing in the end, being eliminated 0-2. Next up, we had Furia taking on BetBoom. What ended up being actually a very exciting series. It went all 3 games, but with my boys in the Boom coming out on top in the back half. What's interesting when talking about this first map on Dust 2 is I believe it was Harry or Hugo on the cast pointed this out at the time, but there is 100% a huge correlation between Cello pop-off games and Furia winning, like much more so than their other players. And I didn't really believe it, but I went back, I started checking some of the stats, and yeah, when Cello has like a 1.3 or better rating, they are winning those games like at an astounding rate. I guess he's just one of those players where he's just like a catalyst to motivate the team to be better. I guess in some ways he can kind of be like a Brazilian Rain in that sense, where I feel like in a similar way, if you go look at like Rain pop-off games, very rarely where there'll be a game where Rain is like excellent, like roll back the years superstar Rain good, and FaZe go on to lose those games. He tends to be that kind of transformative player, and I see a very similar trend with Cello, which is definitely a good thing to point out, a good thing to acknowledge. And on Dust 2, Furia were just cruising. They looked very good on all of their Dust 2 T sides that I've seen recently, and this was no different. They won the pistol round, they maintained momentum, their mid control was excellent, they weren't just losing the op duel to Zorte over and over, and they made great use of backpicking into B. We go over into the second half, however, and BetBoom start mounting their own pretty good comeback. Just very solid T-side rounds, very little emphasis towards A. I've noticed this in quite a few recent Dust 2 games, maybe something to save for a separate video, but it feels like there's been a big noticeable shift in Dust 2 meta, where I'm watching these games and the vast majority of rounds are centering around the B site nowadays. No longer is there this huge emphasis on going mid to cat or prioritizing long spawns. It seems like teams are much more content to kind of joust towards long or mid in the beginning of the rounds, but then work towards B late. And that makes a lot of sense the more you think about it, because now it's so much easier to layer site utility into B, and if you take the B site, you've almost automatically won that round. It's one of the toughest retakes in the entire game. So both teams made liberal use of that, and it looked like BetBoom were going to be able to do it. It came all the way back to an 11-11 scoreline, tie game. And then unfortunately, despite all of the great team play, all of the great executes from Boomich, BetBoom made an absolutely critical error that cost them the game in a big way. It's an 11-11 scoreline. The round's gone very straightforward in terms of both teams kind of jousting for mid and long control, but things have settled down as the T side tries to bait out more utility from the C Ts. BetBoom are rotating around to split up for this long hit. The important thing to note is that the bomb has been dropped outside B. This long hit is just to draw a rotate from Furia, so that way they can take the B side with less resistance. Yuri's at a forward spot by the trash can right in front of the doors, and you'd think this is a great off angle, but he gets spoiled by the peek from BetBoom. And right here is where things go severely wrong, because if we pause for a moment, consider the fog of war that's at play. When Yuri goes down, in his death cam he sees 3 Ts funneling out of long doors. The call out's going to be, there's 3 Ts long. That's a pretty big signal that some kind of A hit is going to go down. There is no doubt in my mind that from this scenario in a 4v5 situation, at least one player from Furia was going to make the rotate from B to either look mid or rotate all the way to A. The point is that Furia would not continue to anchor 2 players on B with that intel from Yuri. It just simply wouldn't happen. So, if the 2 players on tunnels had simply waited another 10 or 15 seconds, there would have been a substantial less concern of a B hit from Furia. Instead, as we unpause, the timing is totally botched and the B hit is 100% spoiled. Cello gets both those picks and absolutely eats the fake alive, stranding BetBoom in the worst case scenario possible. 3 players on long, not much time on the clock, and the bomb on the exact opposite side of the map. BetBoom have no other recourse but for a hasty rotate through T-spawn to pick up the bomb and hope they can take the B site. They do manage to get it on the site, but they are unable to secure the gunfights. Cello caps off the round with a great 2K with the M4 into the USP shots, and all of a sudden this goes from BetBoom in fully control, about to execute an amazing fake on Furia, to match point for Furia, and them winning the game thereafter. Now listen, these mistakes happen, sometimes the timing is just a little bit off, but it couldn't have happened at a worse point for BetBoom as we move into the second map on Mirage. Now, thankfully, all sins can be forgiven, as BetBoom bounced back in a big way to fend off a second half comeback from Furia and equalize the series at 1-1. Before I get too deep into the actual counter-strike of this game, I also want to point out some unfortunate news. It was announced on Twitter shortly after this game finished that Bubblesj and Zorte aren't going to be able to compete at the LAN finals for this Blast bounty due to visa issues, and that is absolutely unfortunate. In an 8-team playoff format, I would love nothing more than to see this roster at full power contend with some of the best teams in the world, because right now, BetBoom are playing some of the most enjoyable Counter-Strike I have seen in a hot minute. I think their systems this early on look excellent, the fragging looks incredible, and if we're going to watch Axile resurrect his career as Bubblesj rises to the heights of a top 10, borderline top 5 IGL, then I think we are set for an exciting year from them. It's just ever unfortunate that the reality is for all Russian players right now, that because of political situations that are entirely outside of their control, they are going to have issues traveling to these tournaments. It's going to be a problem until the situation in Ukraine is resolved. And make no mistake, I don't really talk about politics very often on this channel, but the resolution would be for Ukraine to win and remain a free and independent country. This war has been terrible for a many number of reasons that I can't even begin to get into in this channel, but the way it affects the game I love is definitely something that continues to hit home for me, and I'm very sorry that these players who are playing so well right now are being denied an opportunity to contend for a title. Now, I'll hop off my soapbox to talk a little bit more about this game, but the reason I did it was 1, because it's important, and 2, because I didn't really have too many structural thoughts about this game. There were no particularly very interesting rounds, at least that stuck out to me. Things went pretty straightforward. It's just that these teams were very evenly matched and battling for just the finest of margins. I will say the round that sticks out most is once again an 11-11 tied game, where this time Furia have no excuse for losing this round. They are completely full bot against a totally broke BetBoom, bringing in a MP9, a CZ, a 5.7, a P250, and another 5.7. At this point, Furia should be getting match point every single time, but they allow far too much wiggle room for BetBoom to operate. They isolate the correct picks and the correct gunfights, and this split through A connector from Furia is just sloppy, not good enough at clearing corners, not enough grenade utility coming from the A ramp players, and it leaves too much room for these pistols to operate in a range that's just all too favorable. In a fashion that feels like only Furia and G2 are capable of, they just blow sky high at the most supreme moment, allowing BetBoom to equalize the series at 1-1. As we move into Anubis, things go from very close to total capitulation, with BetBoom running them out of the server 13-7. And there really isn't much else to say. Furia's best chance was to knuckle down through the first half on CT side, survive as long as you can, and make a comeback on the T side. That's often the Anubis formula, and considering they won 5 rounds on the opening half, they were poised to do so. The problem is that they need the pistol round to establish early momentum and keep BetBoom on the back foot with the CT economy. And then they end up losing the first 2 rounds in heartbreaking fashion when the bomb goes down. These post-plan situations should be something that Furia converts at a very high rate, and losing these 2 rounds early just compounded the mistakes, while BetBoom just played a flawless CT side. Siren led the way this time with 22 kills, but really it was a team effort. The only person who underperformed for BetBoom was Zorte, but in the end, it didn't seem to hurt them on their way to victory. This was another great series from this BetBoom team, and once again, I'm just very sad that we won't be seeing them at full strength at the finals in a few weeks' time. Okay, so we've done a good amount of CS analysis, the thing that I'm trying to be known for here, but with these latter 2 series, can I just be spiteful? Can I just be vitriolic? Can I just be Reddit for a moment? Can I be allowed that? Because after a week of covering Counter-Strike, my brain's a little fried, I'm feeling a little soupy in the frontal cortex, so my charitability is very low. With this Vitality vs Pro series, it's even lower than usual because I absolutely fucking despise this vs Pro lineup because Electronic is going to continue to hold it back this entire year, and I have to suffer through Flammus, who is arguably going to break into a top 20 position at the end of the year, being stuck with a team that's effectively going to do nothing. So when Vitality run them over in 2 games, there's not much more I want to get into other than, yeah, Vitality are good. ZywOo is good. Rops is good. The only reason the first game on Train looks close is because Train is a CT-sided map. If this was a normal, more balanced map like Inferno, then yeah, I don't think vs Pro would have gotten that many round wins. So instead, I'm just gonna do a funny haha and make an anime comparison because I like making those. And ZywOo just did this to vs Pro. Am I funny yet? Speaking of haha funny, let's talk about G2 almost losing to Big. Because I'm gonna have to do the other funny thing I do occasionally. And can we just turn on the pain music, please? Okay. Thank you. Anyways, G2 is going to be the most miserable watch the entire year until they get rid of Snacks. I don't know how to say anything more than I've already said in my other video about G2 and Snacks sucking, but this roster is borderline miserable to watch because we're just watching an FPL mixed team at this point. Like, they don't have anything more than the most basic shells of strategies, and when coordinated teams that are definitely weaker in every measure in terms of firepower rock up, G2 are going to struggle unless Malbs, m0NESY, and Heavy God play like gods. And that's just so frustrating to watch because other teams in the top 10, in the top 5, do not have this restriction. Like, yes, Spirit is wholly dependent on Donk and Shiro being absolutely transcendent, but at the same time, Chopper, for good or ill, runs strats. We're just spinning the wheel. Like, we're just sitting here. We're just waiting. This roster isn't going to be able to win a tier 1 tournament without absolute heroics. It feels like the only rounds they won in this event were off the back of incredible individual moments. They were getting so thoroughly schwacked by Big's T-side on Ancient that one of the only rounds they won in the first half was Hunter hitting an incredible 3-man spray down with the M4 when nobody was looking at him. If he gets spoiled in any kind of way, then they probably wouldn't have won a single round that half. It's anemic, limp, uninspired Counter-Strike, and it's so clear that nobody on this team has a good feel for making mid-round reads. And I don't blame m0NESY and Malbs for that. They're young. They're inexperienced players in the grand scheme of things compared to players like Hunter and especially Snacks. Heavy God himself has not been in the tier 1 that long. You build that with time played. You build that with experience. Nico built it with damn near a decade of excellence, being one of the 5 best players in the game. But at the very least, can we see some more cohesion? Watching Malbs throw himself out mid over and over again without so much as a coordinated backing flash makes me want to never watch another game of G2 again. And the only reason they didn't lose this series is on Mirage and Dust 2, Big played worse than they did on Ancient, and m0NESY, Malbs, and Heavy God saved Snacks' ass. In what world would we be okay with Spirit almost losing to Bait? Vitality almost losing to Big? We wouldn't. G2 is settling when they could still have a top 4 or 5 team in the world. I don't care to watch the other 2 games. I don't care to break down what went well on Mirage and Dust 2, because what goes well for G2 is the simplest shit in the world. It's when they click heads. And that's great. But I get flashbacks to watching fucking 2018 Na'Vi with Simple dropping 45 kills while Edward, Zeus, and Flamey get -5 every game. And I'm just wondering what the fuck we're doing here. G2 won. They're in the playoffs. I will be shocked if they do fuck all while there. Anyways, that's going to be it for me today. Let me know what you guys think about G2 in the comments down below. Thank you guys for joining me throughout this Blast Bounty. We're glad to be back for 2025. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you to Skin Club for sponsoring this video. If you use the top link in the description, you get a 7% deposit bonus the next time you play. Please gamble responsibly and safely. Thank you to our channel members, Justin, Jesse, Furley, Milan Berta, Bubblesj, Dr. Cocktor, Patatas Kaftesi, PTR, and B1, the Lord of the Gamer Legion. If you want to become a channel member, you can do so at the link in the description down below. You can support me directly for $5 a month. Get your name at the end of the videos. Get an exclusive role in our community Discord, as well as a huge thank you from me. Also, make sure you follow me on Twitch, twitch.tv/LionHeartZ2. I stream Sunday through Friday at 8:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Come hang out, and I'll see you guys soon with another upload. Peace.